Hi. I'll continue with paragraph 19 of the chapter on ornaments in general from Carl Philipp Emanuel Bach's Versuch über die wahre Art, das Klavier zu spielen. Alle Manieren erfordern eine proportionierte Verhältnis mit der Geltung der Note, mit der Zeitmasse und mit dem Inhalte des Stückes. Man merke, bei denen Fällen besonders, wo unterschiedene Arten von Manieren statthaben und wo man wegen des Effekts nicht zu sehr eingeschränkt ist, dass je mehr Noten eine Manier enthält, desto langsamer die Note sein muss, wobei sie angebracht werden soll. Es entstehe übrigens diese Langsamkeit aus der Geltung der Note oder aus der Zeitmasse des Stückes. Das Brillante, welches die Manier hervorbringen soll, muss also nicht dadurch gehindert werden, wenn zu viel Zeitraum von der Note übrig bleibt. Im Gegenteil muss man auch durch ein allzuhürtiges Ausüben gewisser Manieren keine Undeutlichkeit verursachen. Dieses geschieht hauptsächlich, wenn man Manieren von vielen Noten oder viele Manieren über geschwinde Noten anbringt. Ungeachtet wir in der Folge sehen werden, dass man zuweilen mit Fleiß eine Manier über einer langen Note anbringt, welche die Währung dieser Note nicht völlig ausfüllt, so muss man dennoch hierbei die letzte Note einer solchen Manier nicht eher aufheben, als bis die folgende kommt, indem der Endzweck aller Manieren hauptsächlich dahin gerichtet sein muss, die Noten zusammenzuhängen. Wir sehen also, dass die Manieren mehr bei langsamer und mäßiger als geschwinder Zeitmaß, mehr bei langen als kurzen Noten gebraucht werden. Was wegen der Geltung der Noten sowohl bei den Zeichen als auch kleinen Nötchen zu bemerken ist, werde ich allezeit bei der Erklärung derselben anführen. Außerdem findet man die letzteren nach ihrer wahren Geltung in den Probestücken ausgedruckt. Alle durch kleinen Nötchen angedeutete Manieren gehören zur folgenden Note. Folglich darf niemals der vorhergehenden etwas von ihrer Geltung abgebrochen werden, indem bloß die folgende so viel verliert, als die kleinen Nötchen betragen. Diese Anmerkung ist so viel nötiger, je mehr gemeiniglich hier wieder gefehlt wird, und je weniger ich habe verhindern können, dass zuweilen bei den gehäuften Zeichen der Fingersetzung, der Manieren und des Vortrags der Raum bei den Probestücken erfordert hat, dass einige kleine Nötchen von ihrer Hauptnote, wozu sie gehören, haben müssen abgerissen werden. Vermöge dieser Regel werden also statt der folgenden Hauptnote diese kleinen Nötchen zum Basse oder anderen Stimmen zugleich angeschlagen. Man schleift durch sie in die folgende Note hinein. Hier wieder wird gar sehr oft gefehlt, indem man auf eine raue Art in die Hauptnote hineinplumpt. Nachdem, noch wohl gar dazu, die mit den kleinen Noten vergesellschaftete Manieren ungeschickt an- und herausgebracht worden sind. I wonder, should I be apologizing on behalf of Bach for I don't know, not keeping up the consonants or whatever you'd call it. These paragraphs are epic, they're major. How many people violate that what Bach is saying? Those small notes, the ornaments represented by small notes, you'll know them in the score. They're all those ornaments where small notes are used instead of a sign. And an example could be found in the slow movement of the Beethoven's piano sonata, das Les Bevol, or Les Adieux. Those ornaments are indicated by small notes. Those are the ornaments that Bach is talking about. And in terms of relevance, like I was talking in the last video, there could be an honor roll in the comments section here, where it's mentioned all those places where public figures, people on YouTube giving master classes, artists, all violate this rule, or not rule, but what Bach is saying. And that Beethoven piano sonata, that would be a place to start. How many people perform those ornaments? How many people shortened the value of the preceding note in order to play those ornaments? And when Bach talks about, he's saying one slides into the note or glides into the note through these ornaments. And when somebody plops into it, that means what Bach is talking about is anybody who plays the principal note on the beat and has the ornament before the beat, they are plopping into the main note. And what he is as well is saying at the end of that, in that last paragraph, is that when you do that, you have introduced and executed those ornaments unskillfully or clumsily or ham-fistedly, whatever word you want to translate ungeschickt. Is that the word? Ungeschickt, yeah. Whatever word you want to use for ungeschickt, that is what they are doing. And so that means it doesn't matter if you're Kissin, if you're Evgeny Kissin, and you play that principal note on the beat and have introduced the ornament where you shorten the value of the preceding note, you are doing it in an unskilled way. So it doesn't matter from the beginner right up to Evgeny Kissin or Sokolov or any of the top artists who, they are introducing and executing that ornament unskillfully. They now, hearing those words, knowing what Bach has to say, they do not have to wonder what Bach will think of their performance or interpretation of those places in that piece. And I will say another thing, that what Bach says there about the main goal or the ultimate goal of ornaments is to join or hang the notes together. When you ignore those ornaments indicated by small notes, when you perform them just as Bach, what ticks him off so much, he emphasized it twice, how often this mistake is made. And we could see in the honor roll, in the comment section, how often it's still being made. And it's when you do it, when you plop into the note on the main beat, that ornament is not hanging the notes together. It is doing the opposite. It's driving them apart. So what he said there about that main function of ornaments, the ultimate goal, that is extremely important, and that is your key to knowing when you are performing the ornaments correctly. And knowing this, what I have just read, puts you a level above those top artists. Because what Bach is saying here, it's not something that Bach decided was, he didn't think, I like it this way, so I've decided I want it done this way, and everybody should be doing it this way. He is not saying it because of that. He is saying it because not to do it that way is doing damage to good taste, or as I've as well called it, committing crimes against nature. So it's not Bach's choice that he says this. And in terms of it being applicable for Beethoven, some people might think that this, back to the relevance. What's the relevance of what Bach says? Some people might think, well, this is not relevant to Beethoven. Now, Beethoven came later and there was a different idea. And I would say, like for a brief second, when I was thinking of what I'd say for this video, I was thinking of saying that I suspect that the habit of playing these ornaments indicated by small notes before the note itself, before the principal note, and so that the principal note lands on the downbeat, on the beat, that this kind of crept in during the Romantic period. And you can, like, I can tell that composers from the Romantic period, that from what they've written, I can tell that they imagine those to be played before the note. And I was almost going to say that, but then I thought, hold on a second. Everybody's doing it in the time that Bach wrote this. They're all doing it wrong. They're all playing these ornaments that don't hang the notes or conjoin the notes together. They're all doing it wrong then. So it would be ridiculous for me to say that this probably crept in the Romantic period. And if you want to think that this doesn't apply to Beethoven, and I just pick Les Adieux because I have a video of that second movement uploaded. There's a huge amount of pieces. Basically, you can just pick any piece from all these times. If you think that those small indicated ornaments should be played before, that the principal note should land on the beat, well then, first of all, so that would mean Beethoven dismisses what Bach says. Mozart said about Bach, just to think in what period of time we're talking about, that Bach's idea would be completely dismissed. One, Mozart said Bach is the father and we are the children. Anybody who knows anything at all about music knows it because of him. And anybody who doesn't admit this is a bleep. That's what Mozart said. This book here remained Beethoven's companion through his entire career. What you'd be suggesting is that, like, I'm paraphrasing here, but Bach is really, basically he's describing the idiots who don't do that. All those people in the Land of Lilliput who play those ornaments with small notes, that they shorten the value of the preceding note, playing this ornament, and then plop into the principal note on the beat. That Beethoven, even though he had this book as his companion his entire career, right till the end, he still had this book. This Bach, who else could Beethoven confide in the place he occupied, in the heights he reached in his compositional abilities? Who else could he have confided in other than Bach through this book? There was nobody on the level that Beethoven was except Bach. He had no one else. Beethoven thought, no, I want those small ornaments played so that they shorten the value of the preceding note, and so that the principal note, the note to which that ornament belongs, that I want the people to plop into it, and I want them to perform that ornament, to introduce and execute that ornament unskillfully. So you know what? This is what Beethoven is thinking. I'm going to side with the idiots. I can choose between what Bach says and between what all the people that Bach is criticizing. And he says it twice how often this is violated. We're talking about sophisticated stuff. We're talking about Bach and, addressing the Land of Lilliput and trying to help them, trying to not, giving them the truth of nature. Beethoven wrote at the end, Muss sein. This is not a choice. This is the truth of nature that Bach is talking about. So Beethoven said, you know what? I'm going to side with the idiots. And I could talk to Bach now. And this, I cannot, this ticks him off. This is annoying, and it is annoying because when you have the insight, when you're moving in the world of music, when you understand what it's like when an ornament joins the notes together, and what happens when an ornament doesn't do that, it will annoy you. It will annoy you how oblivious people are to it, how oblivious so-called experts, top artists, how oblivious they are to it, how they lack the insight. You will be annoyed with it too. And you stand to gain here that insight, this knowledge that you are getting here, it could be seen on the honor roll just how many people, top people, elite, don't know this, apparently don't know it because they don't do it. They encourage students in masterclasses to violate this, what Bach is talking about. I could talk to Bach and I could say, you know what, Bach, nowadays, now that we're so evolved and so much more clever and knowledgeable about everything compared to, the people around in your day, you know what? It's gotten worse. It's gotten worse. Not only are they playing the ornaments indicated by small notes before the beat, they're as well playing the ornaments that are indicated by signs before the beat. There'll be professors who'll tell you they'll play the ornament, they'll plop into the principal note on the beat, continue like that, and then they'll tell you that it's your tradition, that it's the Bach tradition to do that. And Bach will go, and he'll say, well, what about what I said here? And I'll say, well, in the land of Lilliput, it's as if you've never said it, as far as Lilliputians are concerned. And then he'll say, so what you're telling me is they are taking the value of the previous note, they're shortening the value of the previous note in order to play this, plopping into the principal note, instead of sliding into the principal note through this ornament, and this ornament taking as much value from the principal note as it requires. And that's what they're doing. And I'd say, well, you know what? That's what they are doing, but they wouldn't see it that way. What they think they're doing is they're playing the ornament between the notes. And then Bach will go, oh, so they're playing, they see it as like they're playing the ornament between the notes. And then Bach might say, well, where do they think, to which note do they think that ornament belongs? And I'll say, you know what? I don't think they think it belongs to any note. I think they think there's such a thing as playing an ornament between notes. They think that actually exists. That they think it's like when somebody says, don't mind me, just I'm not here. Don't pay any attention to me. I'm not actually here. That person saying that actually thinks he's not actually there by saying that. And I think they have the same relationship to the ornament, that they think the ornament isn't actually there. It doesn't belong to any note. It's between the notes. Because, and Bach will know that that is impossible. And anybody who has the insight, who is in the world of music, knows that that is an impossibility. That does not happen. You cannot have those notes being between the notes. Either they belong to a note themselves, or they belong to either the previous note or the following note, but they cannot exist between the notes. Bach will know, he'll agree with me, yes, yeah, that can't exist, it's impossible. And when you gain the insight, you will know how absurd, how ridiculous to entertain such a thought that the notes are being played between the notes is. How the ornaments hang the notes together, that is something that you can discover yourselves. Something you could try is, I feel honestly a bit self-conscious doing this. I can't sing or anything, so I'll just approximate, the music. If you think of Mozart's Piano Sonata in C major, K330, the first movement, in the second subject, I suppose you could call it, and then in the kind of the second half maybe of that second subject, there's a dotted figure And that sonata, Horowitz played it in his Moscow recital. It's that sonata. And so you could try that. There's a schleifer on those notes, and I don't know what that's called in English, but there's notes coming up. The repeated rhythm is on a G, and there's E and F sharp played before that. And you could think of that, and if you kind of sing it or whatever, and you keep a beat while you do it, you could notice the effect of when you play it before the beat, when this ornament part, and you plop into the principal note on the beat, you can see it how it does the opposite of joining the notes together. And then when you sing it or approximate it with that ornament part coming on the beat and the principal note losing as much time as it takes to play that ornament or to include that ornament, you can see how it joins the notes together. So you could try that. So it would go so I'll do it. I don't know which to do first. I'll do the one where you plop into the note. Ba-dum bum ba-dum ba-da-da-da-dum da-la-la-lum. Ba-dum bum ba-bum ba-da-da-da-dum da-la-la-lum. And then if you have the ornament on the beat, da-lum dum da-dum da-la-la-lum da-la-la-lum. Da-lum dum da-dum da-la-la-lum da-la-la-lum. Da-lum dum da-dum da-la-la-lum da-la-la-lum. Da-lum dum da-dum da-da-da-lum da-la-la-lum. When it's before the principal note, it causes the notes to plod along. It slows them down. It starts separating them. It is not fulfilling its main function, and that is to join the notes together. I have heard it said in a masterclass, it was recommended to a student that they perform that ornament before the beat. And all those top artists that are doing that, and how oblivious they are to how it does the opposite of what that ornament does, the opposite of what it's meant to do. If you can sense that, I mean, the demonstration I gave was awful. I imagine I have no idea how it comes across, but if you can sense that, or if you can realize that, and you will realize that if you try what I've shared, if you start exploring the world of virtuosity, when you experience that virtuosity paradox that I talked about, and you experience that, and you start to experience the difference between an ornament joining the notes together as opposed to an ornament separating them, doing the opposite, you have reached a level of sophistication that is higher than the level of sophistication that all those people in the honor roll have achieved. And I would say as well, this very important thing which you should always keep in mind, what Bach says about the ultimate goal of ornaments is to hang the notes together. When you perform an incorrect ornament, that as well does the opposite of joining the notes together. It pushes them apart. So that will, so basically, the ability of an ornament, when it is performed correctly, and when it is the correct ornament, and it doesn't damage good taste, if it doesn't commit crimes against nature, that ornament joins the notes together. So that is your litmus test or acid test. in knowing for sure if you have actually found the correct ornament and if you are actually playing it the correct way. This will happen. And this is a level of sophistication that the top people, ideally, we'd see in the comment section in an honor roll, just what people I'm talking about aren't aware of. And that is insight that Beethoven, Mozart and Bach possessed. And most people, to the annoyance of Bach, don't possess it. And even though he couldn't have been clearer, and I would wonder, what is it? How come people don't know that? How come experts don't know that? How come you are being told, given exactly the opposite wrong information? Why is that? Could it be that bit was so difficult to translate that I have achieved something that nobody else has been able to achieve, in that I have actually translated what Bach says? I have understood what Bach says. Is that so rare? Is that my achievement here? Because if it is, that will be news to me. Like, I mean, would be great, but it would as well. I go, really? None of these people have been able to translate it or understand it. That they all do it wrong. And that when you think about that in terms of relevance of what Bach says, and you think about the absurdity that Beethoven was, you know, Bach, Mozart and Beethoven, they follow a line. Beethoven loved Mozart. Beethoven thought Mozart was great. Ultimately. And so Beethoven is going to decide with the idiots. He thinks the way the idiots did it, that's the way to do it. That's the way he wants his ornaments indicated by small notes done. That the principle, that people plop into the principal note. When you think about that and you think of the relevance of that and the significance and you know, actually just open it up. If you think of that the last piano sonata in C minor, and you think of the introduction, the opening, and the way, and you think of that ornament indicated by small notes that Beethoven wrote in, and that ornament is an extended ornament. It's, you know, the arpeggio of the harmony. Like one of them is G major, you know, the first inversion. If you think of that and the implication, and just think how absurd it would be that Beethoven would give the idiots, they'd say no, the idiots were actually the ones who were correct, and Bach was the one who was incorrect. So let's say he didn't do that. Let's say he understands the laws of nature, and he does say in his last, you know, string quartets, Muses sein es muss sein. So that person who said that will do damage to good taste and violate it and think, no, that arpeggio, before you play the chord, that doesn't belong to the principal note, to that chord. That belongs to the preceding note. And that it should be played so you land on the chord on the beat. That Beethoven will have taught that. And it could be that, why did Beethoven indicate that with small notes? That spread. Why didn't he just make it a spread chord? It could be, based on these paragraphs, that Beethoven indicated it through small notes so people wouldn't separate it from the following note. That they wouldn't plop into the following note, and so they would play them. Begin that arpeggio on the beat, they wouldn't cut any value of the preceding note, and the following chord would be the one to lose as much value as it takes to play that arpeggio. And that can further extend the honours list below of all the people who performed that last piano sonata and played that arpeggiated ornament before the beat. And if you think for yourself the difference it makes when you play that arpeggiated ornament on the beat and you wait the proper length of time so that the previous note is not cut short, is not denied any of its value, and you'll see the difference your interpretation will have. And I don't, like I said in the last time, I don't want to be original or authentic. And this here, I was as well saying, you're going to be able to decide for yourself. And this here is the first, not the first instance, but one instance where you get to decide for yourself. And so when you listen, or if you listen to me perform, or my interpretation, I'm not a performer, but I do interpret. I interpret. I present interpretations. There's something that doesn't exist. And it's so, and I don't expect anybody to recognize that. I don't expect anybody to recognize an interpretation when they hear it. But you will learn what it means to interpret. You will learn what it means to be an interpreter. And I play that differently to everybody. I play it uniquely. And you can hear in that, I can't do anything about the piano and the standard of the piano. This is the piano that is within my means, and I have to, make the most out of it, and hope that it suffices. But you will hear those ornaments, how the difference in the way I play them, that nobody else plays them that way. You can hear in that the difference how they make in terms of hanging the notes together. And you can take anybody else's interpretation and listen to how when you play them, robbing the value of the preceding note, plopping into the principal note, how it doesn't join the notes together. And that's what all these other interpretations are doing. They're not, but they think they're playing it between the notes, but they're not. I don't want, this is the others, those people who play those ornaments between the notes, they're playing Beethoven's way. I'm playing Beethoven my way. I don't want to be authentic. I don't want people copying what I do. I don't want people knowing what Bach says, because I don't want people copying it and hiding behind it being the authentic way or the correct way. In no uncertain terms, Bach says, you must be able to just think about it and let those who advocate playing it wrong, playing it the way the idiots play it, if they advocate, let them back it up. And I present those paragraphs as my first evidence. I appeal to your logic. Would Beethoven, there are two people here in those paragraphs. One is Bach and the other is all those who violate what Bach is saying about with the ornament, that they don't know that it belongs to the following note, and they don't know that they're cutting the value short of the preceding note when they play it in between the notes, and they don't know that that ornament is not joining the notes together. Who do you think Beethoven is going to side with? That Beethoven, and you can ask the experts who advocate the other thing, what did Beethoven mean when he says Muss es sein, or es muss sein? Muss es sein, es muss sein. What did Beethoven mean? I know what he meant. And am I the only one who knows what he meant? Ask them why, if Beethoven didn't indicate those ornaments with small, that were indicated with small notes in that last piano sonata, if he didn't do it so the people would know it belongs to the following note, and so the people wouldn't play it before the beat, well then ask them why, and then hear from them a G. Henley for lag type footnote. Some, whatever Lilliput excuse or reason they'll come up with, because they don't have a reason. They don't know. You will see how weak. It's never questioned. They're what they'd advocate as being correct. They don't want to admit they're wrong. The honor roll as well. If top artists, any of these people, they could nominate themselves. They could put their own name and say, you know what, I did it. And it would be an indication of their integrity, of their character. If they're saying one never stops learning. If they can use this as a chance to see for themselves when they look in the mirror, was what they were saying actually true? Did they have integrity, or were they just empty words, lip service because they went down well and they made that person look intelligent? What Bach is saying here as well can be applied to spread chords. And this is to help students, because when you have to learn a piece, all of a sudden everything everything has to be decided on. And when the piece doesn't go so well, that feeling that you don't know what you're meant to do can just exasperate the whole unpleasantness of it. And it's nice to know what's definitely correct. And so if you want to learn, or if you're learning the Tempest Sonata, that opening, that spread chord, you'll hear from people in the cage from the land of Lilliput that, to spread the chord, and when you land on the top A in that opening spread A major chord, inverted A major chord, that when you land, you should land on the A on the beat. You know that is absolutely and utterly incorrect. That first of all, it's ludicrously incorrect, because it's, Bach says the ornament belongs to the following note. What do the notes of that spread chord, to what does that belong? Do those notes belong to the preceding note? Obviously not. Those notes belong to the chord, to its harmony. So you start the spread chord on the beat, and the final A loses as much value as it takes to spread that chord. And that is the absolute correct way of playing it. And again, the people advocating you spread the chord and land on the A on top, on the beat, plopping into the note to the principal note after you've unskillfully introduced and executed that spread, they won't think that they're shortening the preceding note. They won't think that counts at all. It has no consequences, and it'd be true, because when you're in the cage, nothing you do is of consequence. Nothing. So in a way, they're right, because they're not in the world of music. But when you are moving in the world of music, you will know that that has a consequence. And so what they're advocating, and you might say at the opening of the piece, well, there is no preceding note. But if you were to repeat the exposition, there is a preceding note. So what they want you to do is cut short that note to play those spread notes of a chord that actually belongs to the chord and not to the preceding note. But in the cage, there is no consequence, there's no rhythm, there's no pulse. They'll play the note, they'll spread the chord, and there'll just be this gap. And how can there be a gap in music? How can there be a gap? Bach knows there is no gaps. When you're moving in the world of music, you are in that world. As soon as you stop moving in that world, you're out of that world. There are no gaps. But when you're just playing notes, you can have all the gaps you want. They are of no consequence because there was never any music there. So they'll play the note, they won't shorten the value of the note, they'll just have a gap, they'll spread the chord, and then they'll start again. Doing that is not music. And yeah, I'm just glad there's a few of you out there who, can respond or, take that for yourself. You can achieve a level. If Kissin, Sokolov, all those people in that honor roll in the comment section, for them to find people who can bring them to the next level, that's a needle in a haystack. I am the needle they're looking for, and you, not them, you have found it. So you can use it. You can take that for yourself, and you can surpass. You can start to have that level of sophistication, level of insight, that you understand what it means when ornaments join the notes together. So think about that and use that, what I'm saying, and that spread chord. So you can know that for certain. You can know it for certain. You don't have to wonder. When you hear somebody say spread the chord and land on the principal note on the beat, you know it is absolutely and utterly incorrect. And that spread chord is not joining the notes together. It's separating them. And as well, in that paragraph 19, okay, I'll just say, he says where, in those cases, particularly where there's, so he's talking about cases where more than one type of ornament can exist. So you can include more than one type of ornament, and I would connect that to the previous chapter or paragraph in that chapter where he talks about how the composer, as long as he doesn't do damage to good taste, is free to use any ornament. Well, I would connect that. That is those same instances that he's talking about here. And then he says where one is not too restricted because of the effect. I would as well connect that to what he says in the previous paragraph about how, the presentation of sadness or innocence, how that suffers less ornamentation than other passions. So I would connect that with that, where he's saying you're not too restricted because of the effect. That's what he means there. So that the longer the note or the slower the note should be when adding ornaments with many notes in them. And then what he goes on, this next bit, it's like he's saying the advantages of that. And one of the advantages is that the brilliance that the ornament should be bringing to the fore is not, when you add an ornament to a longer or slower note with many notes in it, the brilliance that the ornament is meant to bring to the fore is not going to be hindered in that there's too much time of the note remaining. And you could imagine, in terms of a final trill in let's say a Mozart concerto or something, that trill normally lasts the bar, and that trill should take you, with its brilliance, take you to the final note. It goes right to the final note, and that could be the final note that you play as the soloist. This trill takes you, and if you imagine the trill going halfway through and just stopping and then playing that final note, you could see how the brilliance of that ornament is impeded or hindered. So that's one, that's the way I think it's presented here in this context. The other way you can look at it is the brilliance shouldn't be hindered. You can think that Bach is talking about the brilliance that an ornament should have. And if you think of that tempest, then the turn in after the spread chord, that it's very probably most commonly played extremely slowly. And that as well, that is the incorrect way to perform that ornament. And that as well does the opposite of hanging the notes together. Because if any of these people, top artists, were even like just considering what it is they're doing on a deeper level, and if they think about the value of those two semiquavers after the turn, and the fact that they've incorrectly performed that turn means those two notes are completely, the rhythm is completely wrong, the value of those notes is completely wrong, it's way too long. To think of that 16 of those notes fill up a bar. Imagine after you play that turn very slowly, where none of the brilliance of the turn is there, the brilliance that the ornament should be bringing to the fore. How, and you can think, when you think how long a bar of such 16 notes that is often played after such a slow performance of that turn, if you think how ridiculously long a bar with 16 of those notes at those speeds would be, you would know that that is not hanging the notes together. It is doing the opposite. It is driving them apart. So if you're a student, you're learning, you have two things to go on. One is that turn is not slow, the brilliance, and it's not excessive, because you see here in this a second one, the other advantage of introducing ornaments on long notes or on slow notes, ornaments that have many notes in them, is that you're not going to be indistinct or unclear because you have to hurry or rush through the ornament. And he says that can happen when you try and introduce ornaments with many notes in them on fast notes. That is the other advantage. So you're not talking about rushing the turn either, that it's ridiculous. But you will know you're doing it correctly when you have the brilliance it's meant to present, and that it hangs those the notes together. So there are two things you can know for sure, and you can rise above the land of Lilliput. When you try them out. And like I said, this is your chance to decide. I don't want to be authentic, but you get to decide yourself what's authentic. You could consider just the repercussions or the significance of having heard these paragraphs, of knowing it and discovering it for yourselves, discovering the truth of what it is that Bach is saying. Achieving that level of sophistication that you can hear the ornament hanging the notes together and the ornament doing the opposite, driving them apart. Just think of how often, how big that honor roll could be. That honor roll could basically include every prominent public person. And I would say to any of them, they can nominate themselves and it'll show their integrity. If they nominate themselves and say, you know what, I did not know that, I was doing it wrong, and I'm going to explore the correct answer. Not that I want any of that, because I much rather be the only one doing it. It's nice to be unique. But I as well would like to, see you empowered and to, see you take over and bring the truth and dispel all that misinformation, all that Lilliput ignorance. So that as well, from what so that's extremely important about hanging the notes together or joining together with the ornament, which as well makes what he says about that the last note of the ornament, and like you're going to hear, like what Bach says, we are going to see cases where you deliberately include an ornament over a long note that doesn't fully fill the long note, that you do not lift the last note of that ornament before the following note comes, before the next note comes. That is also very important. So those paragraphs are really kind of groundbreaking. They're seismic, they're epic, they'll change. It's like a wrecking ball to, it exposes. When you know this, when you can question all those authority figures, all the people who you're hoping for guidance from, it exposes them. You get to question them. You get to put them on the spot. You get to ask them why. Why does, I am giving you the tools to be able to figure this out for yourself, to be able to experience it for yourself, to experience what it's like when an ornament joins the notes together, what it's like when an ornament doesn't do that and drives them apart. I am providing, and Bach we are providing you with the tools to be able to do that. But you can always ask your professor, the expert, the person in the masterclass, why? First of all, you can wait till they tell you to play that ornament before the note, and you can ask them why they told you to do it wrong, incorrectly, and why does that undermine the ultimate goal of ornaments, in that they join the notes together. Why does it break them apart, and how is it doing that? And you can ask them, why should I listen to you and not to Bach? Why would it be that Beethoven listens to Bach, or listens to you and not to Bach? Why would Beethoven choose you over Bach? You could ask them that. And but much more important is what you do with it, with the information yourself, and how you use this. Bach here has provided a great gift. He has seen the promised land, and he is describing that promised land to you. And Mozart understood it the same. This is not a question of what you prefer. This is a question of what nature, the answer that nature provides. The answer that's correct. Because when the correct answer is there, it'll exist long after we're gone. And in the cage, nothing you do. You can just, whenever I mention the cage, just think of a prison and prison life, and all those elements of prison life that apply when you're in the cage on a piano level. One thing is you're running after, in prison, these things become valuable that in the free people would never, cherish or dote over, like Gollum or Smeagol saying, my precious, and you could, in prison, you'll be doing that with items that you discard when you're free, because you could purchase them in any shop you go in. They're just all over the place for you. But in the cage, things, like wrong notes, they become of supreme importance. Whereas something like this, those errors, they go unnoticed by people in the cage, because they can't relate to anything that exists in the free world, in the world of music, the world outside the cage. So you can think of any prison life, and anything that happens in prison is of no consequence. It doesn't matter, because they're not in the world. They can commit whatever crimes they like in prison. It makes no difference. It's of no consequence. That's part of prison. That's part of the reason why people would be afraid to go to prison, is because of that there's no protection, because people can do what they like, because there's no consequence to their actions. And in terms of piano, this is all figurative. So in terms of piano, the thing is, what is, it's for yourself. When you've spent your whole life doing nothing of consequence on the piano, that means, and that doesn't mean it's related to how successful you are or anything, but that means that you have never experienced what it's like to do something of consequence on the piano. You have not experienced what it's like when an ornament joins the notes together. It is your job to experience that. You don't go, yes, very good, Bach says that, I must add it to the shopping list, and I must, parrot it off to my next student. It is your job to discover what that means, to be able to, have your student experience what that means. you want that for yourself, because when you, as soon as you discover what it's like when an ornament joins the notes together and when it doesn't, when it pulls them apart, that means you have actually done something of consequence, and the reward for that for you is, it's like what Bach was saying about, giving the soul nourishment for the soul. This is the level we're talking about. This is the joy that I'm talking about with virtuosity, with joy. That you're in a world of music. You can hear the people in the cage. Like, I just uploaded the Fantasia, and it goes into B flat major after a chromatic scale, after he kind of pauses on that F. The seventh chord of F, the F with the E flat. He remains on that, and it goes into the B flat. You can see the people in the cage, they're not able to honor the rests. They ignore the rests, and it's everybody is copying everybody else. One idiot did it wrong, and everybody copies them. And somebody like me, it's almost like I've been polluted by all these people, and I can't listen to any of them because it's so wrong. It's so polluting that I have to quarantine myself so I don't have any of what they're doing in my head, so I can play it properly. Yeah, I don't know. You should, if you can consider the significance of these paragraphs, this is your first, these are your first steps into becoming an independent artist, of being able to decide for yourself what's authentic. And you will be, what percentage of the people did it wrong when Bach wrote this, as opposed to what percentage of the people do it wrong now? It might be, could be greater, the percentage now, perhaps. I would say it's probably equal, and I'd say it'd probably be in the 99% range, if not more. I mean, that's a conservative guess. Could be 99.9% who do it wrong. But you get to be, you have it here, the information that you get to use, the information that Beethoven had as his companion his entire life. This is the length of time to be considering what it is Bach has said in these paragraphs. So, yeah. And the intensity is, I mean, yeah, this is YouTube, and maybe it's too intense, but I don't think it's, if you think of Jesus when, and I'm not comparing myself to Jesus, but when Jesus saw the traitors in the church and he overturned the tables, he will have expressed anger. If you think Jesus is this benevolent character who's all smiles and gentle and PC and rather comes across like a smooth kind of politician. If you had been there, you would probably, the person you would have been most frightened of in that room would have been Jesus. And so there's certain things where the intensity is appropriate, and we are talking about a misconception this misconception that is so rampant. And just think about what I've said about plopping into the note, that not even, that even with Kissin and his skill, he is introducing and executing that ornament unskillfully, ham-fistedly, clumsily, awkwardly, whatever you want to call it. He is doing that, and the fact that he's Kissin and he possesses his level of skill does not exempt him from that. And the misinformation, or the fact that this information seems so rare that you belong to the few who actually know it, that this is so rare that you can see that as mediocrity attacking genius. Just to what extent mediocrity has won. How come this is not the common knowledge? How come I have to be intense? How come Bach has to be upset? How come Bach can hardly contain his disdain in these paragraphs? That he has to be so emphatic, like he's talking to complete morons when he says it. Why does that have to be? Why can't this be what is known? And the Lilliput stuff is in the minority. Why does the Lilliput stuff win? But you are going to reap the rewards when you start doing it properly. It's like with a jigsaw. When you put that piece in the place where it belongs, you're going to find that the pieces around it start to fit. So this is your chance to put a piece there where it belongs. And even if you haven't twigged it yet about moving in the world of virtuosity, the world of music, if you haven't yet experienced the virtuosity paradox, when you play these ornaments indicated by small notes on the beat, and so that they belong to the following note and are not cutting the value of the preceding note short, you are putting a piece in its place. And the more pieces you put in their place, this eventually it's going to click, and you will find yourself out of that cage, and you will be rejoicing. I guarantee you. You will be doing things you never thought possible. You will be achieving things that you thought would only somebody like Mozart can achieve. You will never have imagined that that there's so much potential in you. And the fact that all these top artists, it would be brilliant if there was an honor roll in the comment section of all those people publicly, and not private people, but public people, experts, professors, people who put themselves on YouTube. If there's an honor roll there, where did all their talent? How come they were oblivious to that ornament not hanging the notes together? With all their skill, their musical ability, their genius, all these things they're meant to possess. Where was that? That they happily perform, record all the Beethoven sonatas, playing every single one of those ornaments wrong. And I don't really want to share that with the Opus 111, because I'll play Opus 111 and I'll do it differently. I will put the spread chord on the beat, and the chord after it is going to lose as much value as that spread chord takes up. And that is going to transform that opening musically into something that has never been heard before. And so I don't want to share that, but I do want you to be Spartans. I want you to be elite. I want you to take over. And that's why I'm sharing it, because there's a world of possibility. You can explore the piano repertoire, the classical music, Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, Chopin, Haydn, Schubert. You can explore it now, and you can see the effect of this insight has on how it transforms the piece, how it transforms the music, how it transforms the phrase. Because if you start playing these ornaments indicated by small notes the way they're meant to be played, and that they belong to the following note, you are putting that piece in place, and your chance of that ornament joining the notes together has increased significantly, instead of you living your life playing ornaments that separate the notes away from each other. So, in the next video, I'll finish that chapter, and then we'll get into specifics. And this, what you've got here from Bach, is insight. Everybody will nod when they hear that saying, give a person a fish and they eat for a day, teach them to fish and they eat for a lifetime. This is insight you can use in every single piece. When you discover the meaning of, when you discover the experience of ornaments hanging the notes together as opposed to separating them away from each other, that is a guiding light that will guide you through the darkness of any piece you have heard nothing about and have never seen. This is one of those guiding lights. And you do not need your shopping list. Your shopping list with that insight, with everything related to that insight, and what you can discover through that insight and in exploring it. Anything that's related to that, it means your shopping list now is infinitely long. It means that you do not need to compile a shopping list. You can use that in any situation, and you will come up with the answer that the person with the longest shopping list wouldn't have been able to come up with. So that's it. Thanks. Bye.